Alright, mine please. So, big picture, I want to explain what we're doing. I don't think so. So this is just an example. Let's say y equals the square root of x, and you don't have to write this down, just like watch. And y equals x squared. So that creates like a shape that is bordered by those two equations. So we are going to do three things with this shape. One is just find the area of it, which is what we're doing today. Two is revolve that shape around a vertical axis. So let's say like around the x-axis or y-axis, so it makes like a three-dimensional like bowl. I don't know if you can kind of visualize that. And we'll find the volume of that. And then three, we'll say what if every one of these cross sections was, for example, like a rectangle, like coming out of. These are supposed to be like coming at you. It's like a three-dimensional. Like there's rectangles coming this way all the way along. We'll find the volume of that. And we do all those things vertically, and then we do them all horizontally. So it's kind of six things we're doing. It's really like three things, but we just do them twice. And then we'll have a big. These are very common in the AP test. We'll have a big test over that. That's like our last major test. We have more stuff to cover, but it's less of a. It's like a smaller unit than this is. But just keep in mind where we're going with the big picture. Today we're doing area. I don't look at it like I'm gonna write. I think that he probably put like f of x minus g of x, and then f is greater than c. I'm gonna write it like this: top minus bottom, and the a is your left hand x value, and the b is your right hand x value. So we're eventually going to and realize that this is a dx. That's why this is an x value. This is an x value. We're going to flip it, I think it's tomorrow, and we do dy, so this becomes a lower and an upper. This becomes right minus left, and this becomes dy. So we got to keep those straight. But let me first convince you that top minus bottom is the distance between any 2 points this way. Because some years people are like, wait a minute, I don't think that's true. So let's say these 2 points here. That's 4, that's 3. How far apart are those? 1. How'd you get that? Top minus bottom. 4 minus 3. 1 and negative 1. How far apart are those? 2. Isn't that top minus bottom? 1 minus negative 1 is 2. And then even if it's negatives, so if you had like negative 1 and negative 2, how far apart are those? Negative 1 minus negative 2. So they're 1 apart from each other. So top minus bottom will always give you that distance. What's up, you guys? So all I put was, sorry, I erased it really fast. This is top minus bottom. And then, no. That's stupid. We do that. Okay, so, this is also calculator active. So find the area bounded by these curves. So that's y equals x squared. That's y equals negative x. And then we got these two, x equals 0 and x equals 1. What are those? Don't say straight lines. Because every line is straight, so that doesn't mean anything. What are those? What kind of lines? Don't say straight. Don't do it. Yeah. What, vertical? Yeah. So x equals 0 is here. And x equals 1 is here. So this is the shape, the region that we're trying to find the area of. So it's the area that is enclosed by all of the equations. So if I set that up, it's going to be, so this is your left hand x value and your right hand x value. So the left hand side is at x equals 0, the right hand side is at x equals 1. And then I do, oh, this is x squared plus 2. And I do the top equation minus the bottom equation. sometimes you will have to know which equation is which without a calculator, and sometimes they're not as obvious as you think. Like my guess is most of you could have gotten to this conclusion that x squared plus 2 is up here and negative x is down. Like let's say you didn't have the graph, knowing which one's top and bottom. If you don't know, if you can't see the graph and you don't know, pick a number that is between these two values. So let's say 0.5. If I plug 0.5 into x squared plus 2, 0.25 plus 2 is 2.25. If I plug 0.5 in there, it's negative 0.5. So which one of those is a higher value is the 2.25, so that's the one on top. Does that make sense what I'm doing there? Like if you can see it, great. But if you can't, sometimes you got to plug in a number. And sometimes you'll just have your calculator and you can just type it in. You don't have to think about it. You can just look at it. But you got to kind of be able to do all three. So here I can see the top equation is x squared plus 2 minus the bottom equation is negative x times dx. Again, that's my left-hand x value. That's my right-hand x value. This is my equation that's on top, and that's my equation that's on the bottom. And so what that's doing is taking there's like a representative strip. You're finding like the volume of this little, or the area of this little tiny rectangle, and the area of this little tiny rectangle there, and you're adding them up as you go, and eventually you fill up the space and find the area. So type that in. Make sure you can type it in right and get it. Try to keep giving you reps with the calculator. So mine told me 17 over 6. Or if I made that a decimal. 2.833. We haven't talked about this before in here because we haven't really gone this deep with the calculator yet. In this class, you always round to 3 decimal places. On the AP test, you round to 3 decimals. Those of you in stats, have I talked about rounding yet? So what the AP stats test says is round to where it makes sense. So I'm like sitting in the audience at this thing. I'm like, how do I know that what makes sense to me and what makes sense to you are the same? And they're like, you just gotta round to where it makes sense. It doesn't mean anything. So anyway, in calc, I like it because they're very specific. Like round to 3 decimal places. Yeah, my fear is like I'll round to 4 and they'll be like, nope, 3.9. You shouldn't round it. You know what I mean? Like, I think you're probably right, but it just makes me a little unsure. Are we good now? 17.6, 2.833. All right. All right, number 2. So a couple things you'll notice here: I don't have a graph, and I don't have the left and right boundary. So the last one they gave me 2 vertical lines. In this one, let's not throw in our calculator. We could throw in our calculator, see what they look like, and look at the graphs. But I don't want to, because you're going to have to know how to do these without. So I need to find the left and right boundary. Well, that, in this case, 2 minus x squared looks something like that. Y equals x looks something like that. And I'm looking for like the 2 spots where they intersect. And then I'm going to find the area that encloses there. So if I want to find those 2 x-values where they intersect, what can I do with the 2 equations? Set them equal. So I'm going, it's like a side quest, just so I can find my left and right here. So I got to solve that. So I'd take everything to the right hand side, so you have positive x squared plus x minus 2. And then what can we do? Factor. So that'll be x plus 2, x minus 1. So I'll get x equals 2, negative 2, and x equals 1. So then my left hand endpoint is x equals -2, and my right hand is 1. I'm sorry, are we good here? I always feel like I'm like in your way. That's why. And then when I got to do top and bottom. So I don't know. Maybe you can visualize that. Maybe you cannot. Let's say you can't. I don't know which one's on top. So I'm going to pick a number in between these two. Which 0 is great. 0 works. Like that's the easiest one. If I plug 0 in that one, what do I get? 2. If I plug 0 in that one, I get 0. So that one's on top because that's a bigger y value. So 2 minus x squared minus x times dx. And I'm happy there. So a lot of the questions in this part will say just set it up. Because at some point, like, we know that you know how to do the calculator. It's just like, just set it up, and I know you can do it from there. But I guess I'm asking you guys, are you comfortable typing that in? Is that, like, better at this point? You guys have a hate relationship with those calculators for a while. Okay. Questions on 2. So that's where you have to find those two and figure out top and bottom. Yeah. You do not have to simplify it. If it said just set up, like that is a perfectly legitimate. I wouldn't go any further than that because you might make a mistake. All right, so 3. So 3 is another level of difficulty, I'd say. Some people have trouble seeing this. On this kind, I believe, I don't want to say always, but I've always seen a graph with these so far. Doesn't mean it'll always stay that way, but we have an issue here. This is y equals the square root of x. This is y equals x minus 6. So don't write this down because this is wrong. But some people will tell me this. They're going to go, okay, well the left hand is 0. It goes all the way over to 9. So between 0 and 9. The top equation is my square root of x minus the bottom equation is my x minus 6. And they'll tell me that. So I want you to think about what region are you actually finding if you do that. It's not the shaded part. It's the shaded part plus more. So what that is finding is if you extend that, we're saying that's the top, that's the bottom, and you have just found all of this. But we don't want all of that. But do you see why you're finding all of that if we do it that way? We don't want that. So what happens is the top equation is the same the whole time. Like that equation is on top of the shape the entire time. But that x minus 6 is only the bottom of the shape for this part. What's the bottom of the shape over here? You can't say x-axis. You gotta give me an equation. That's y equals 0. So at this spot here at 6, the bottom of the shape changes. So your bottom border up to there is the x-axis or y equals 0. But I can't just do the x-axis the whole time because then I'm finding like this part. At 6 we switch and the bottom of your shape is not that. So we have to do 2 integrals. We're going to go from 0 to 6. And I'm doing 6 because that's where this corner is, where it changes. What's the top equation between 0 and 6? Square root of x. What's the bottom equation between 0 and 6? Is the y equals 0. So this will find that part. Plus, I've got to go from 6 to 9, and now I've got a different bottom. So my top is still the square root of x. My bottom is x minus 6. So this finds that part. And then you would add them together. We don't have to. This one actually says set up. So take a look at that and see if I go over anything else there. Question that I can go through? like I'm just gonna make up like a similar one. Let's say this is A, this is B, this is C, this is x equals 0, that's x equals 1, and that's x equals 2. Set up the integral or integrals that would find that area. So like this is the equation. The name of this equation is A. Instead of like x squared, it's just A. Try to make it like I don't know if that's what I'm going for, and I don't know if it's working. You would say from 0 to 1, what's the equation on top? A, and then the bottom one's C. So I don't know if I wrote this very well, but then from 1 to 2, it'd be B minus C, right? So the example I drew here, the top part changes. Question on 3? Or like my weird additional version of 3? Alright, let's try 4. Grab your calculator if it's not out yet. So I've got these two equations. I've got two things to find, like where they intersect, because that's my left and my right. So throw in the solver, see what you get. So I have to solve, remember? And then you type in ln of x equals 1 f x minus 2, comma x, don't forget the comma x, and then you close your parentheses. Do you mean 0.1455? Yeah, so I got these two things. It's holding out on you? Oh. So there's like a little arrow there to let you know there's more. I really wanted you to know about that. Let me show you something you can do here that will help you on AP tests. I don't want to, like, it's up to you. But for me, I got to either write those numbers there, or you're allowed to do this. Say, I'm going to call that A and that B, and I'm going to go from A to B. So it's up to you. Or you can write like 0.1455 and 8.2109. It's not like it's that hard, but the A and B, you're allowed to do that as like a shortcut. All right, now we got to figure out what's on top and bottom. You have a calculator for this. So you could either pick a number in between there, like 5, do ln of 5, do 1/2 times 5 minus 2, see which one's bigger, or graph it and just like watch and see which one's on top in this area. You can do either, but take a second to figure out which one's on top. So if you graph it, just like remember the order that you type them in, and they'll pop up in that order. And you can tell which one's which. And I think bottom equation is 1fx minus 2 times dx, and I'm not worried about the answer, just setup is good. So make sure you understand everything I'm doing there. I'm finding where they intersect. Just like we did in number 2, but number 2 we can factor, that's why we use our calculator. I'm figuring out top and bottom, which is a little tougher to do in my head on this one, I think for most of us. So I threw in my calculator and used that. Any questions on how I found either where they intersect or which one's on top? Okay. I'm going to go through 5 also, but we're just going to set it up. We're not going to actually solve it. I want to give you a second first before I just. So see if you can set up number 5. We're not going to solve it. Yeah. I think it was like intended to because it says find the area, but I'm just saying like let's just set it up. I would say at least half of your test will be just set this problem up. So again, you got to figure out what's on top and bottom, and maybe you can tell. Maybe you're just familiar enough with like square roots and squares that you can tell. Maybe you got to plug in a number. Maybe you graph it. But you got to know what's on top. So just doing that where 2 times the square root of x is on top, and the x squared over 4 is on the bottom. You guys want more time to look at it, or am I good to go? Okay. You want more time? I don't care. I got it. All right, let's just go. So first of all, are there questions on how I know that's on top and that's on the bottom? Is that part okay? Somebody just say yes. Okay, thank you. This is where I start yelling on the video. Alright, so then we gotta make this line x equals k. So x equals k we know is a vertical line. We're gonna divide that into 2 equal regions. So somewhere, I don't know exactly, but somewhere around there is x equals k. And what I know is this side of the shape and this side of the shape are the same thing. So what are the x boundaries on this left-hand part of the shape? What would the left-hand boundary be? 0. What's the right-hand boundary going to be? K. So if I integrate this from 0 to k, it'll give me this area. And if I integrate it from k to 4, it'll give me this area. And what has to be true about those 2 areas? They got to be equal because it wants me to cut them in half or make equal area. So I would go from 0 to k. The top equation is 2 root x. The bottom equation is x squared over 4. So that's the blue part. That has to equal the integral from k to 4 of the same thing. I feel like my diagonal writing is taking away from my fanciness, but it's okay. So that's the red part. So going from 0 to k gets you here, k to 4 gets you there, and 2 equal regions mean they've got to be equal, they've got to be the same. And I have very, very, very rarely seen them make you go through and solve this for k. Like, I don't know if I've ever seen it, almost every time. I don't want to say always, right? But like, usually they just want you to set it up and stop. I'm not worried about solving that. That was a pain too. Questions I can answer on? Yeah. It does. I'm saying no. I did want to solve them, what I would have to do is integrate this, which would be 4/3 x to the 3/2 minus 1/12 x to the third from 0 to k equals the same thing from k to 4. And I think maybe start to see why this is a pain. So now plug k into this. Minus plug 0 in. So that's cool because plugging in 0 doesn't change anything. But here, now I got to plug in 4. Minus plug in k. And then you got to solve that. You could just type that in your calculator from there. Like you could type all that crap in. It's just like it's just tedious and annoying and not how the AP does. So I don't feel any real need to go through that. You guys go ahead and start working on 11 through 13. Just find k. No, sorry. Just set it up. I said just find k. Just find k. 11 through 13. Just set it up. And just go up to 13. Yes, I want you to sketch. What is your opposition to sketching? Only there was some way to fix that. That's like the way I was saying fix it. How about instead of sketch, draw an accurate representation? You know what you can do instead of an accurate representation? You can sketch it and make it an inaccurate sketch. That's my offer to you. Wait, no, hold on. I was hoping that was like complex equations. Yeah, it's all Reynolds and I. Yeah. I was hoping for something to prove my point. Are you done already with